2 o'clock. And so the meeting is called to order. So I want to just do a personal check and make sure everybody can see and everybody can hear. Yes, yes. Miles?
Yes,
yeah.
ma'am.
Okay, great. Terry, you too, right? Mm-hmm. All right. And John is there, but not there. So anyway, wow, exciting. Thank you, Rob, for joining us today as our new Arts Commission liaison.
Yay.
How exciting.
Welcome back, Rob.
Welcome back, Rob.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
How excited are you?
Pretty excited. I said when I left that it's like if I ever get kicked off council, I'll be back to Arts Commission. So I get to come back in a different form. So
That's great.
I'm
That's
looking
great.
forward. Yeah.
It's great. It's great to have you back.
Thanks.
Yeah. And I think Karen will be joining us as a guest shortly, or maybe has already. I don't know. Let's see who's on our list of who's present. Rudy is here. She was wanting to listen in on the meeting. And just us otherwise. So I think we can go ahead with our agenda for today. I wanted to I didn't write them down, but just call your attention to the fact that I had made a few changes to the expectations of behavior since there were some issues with those. And I hope that they will work well for this meeting, and whoever is in charge in the future can rediscuss those issues as they feel necessary. So let's use them for operating today. And so I wanted to see first if there were any citizen comments. No. Is that a no? I guess not. Okay. Then we can move along to the approval of the minutes for last month. And thank you, Matt, for keeping everything flowing nicely for us. So anybody have any modifications to those minutes that they would like to make at this time? All good? Then I need a motion to accept the minutes.
Approved.
I'm sorry?
I move that they be approved.
Oh, okay. Thank you, John. All right. All in favor? Aye. Okay, great. And I'm very grateful, by the way, for having all of you here, since we're just a quorum by the skin of our teeth, the 4 of us, or the 5 of us if Ruth pops in and out. So thank you very much for being here today. All right, so the minutes are approved, and then we can move right along and look at the...
Rob, but yep, Rob's our council liaison, was appointed last night.
Yes, and Rob, do you have any comments for us?
Nope, not really. I just wanted to say thanks for having me back, and thanks to Karen. I'm going to be leaning on you a bunch because, yeah, I haven't been a liaison on Arts Commission, and as Rudy will attest, public safety's a pretty easy plum gig over there. Chief kind of does all the work for you. I'll be working with whoever is chair and vice chair soon to put together the goals for 2022, and I'll be reaching out to other people as well to figure out like what they want to do. There's actually going to be some pretty cool crossover between public safety and Arts Commission because Chief is thinking one of the main goals for public safety is going to be, we've been cleaning up our side of 290 to prevent camping and, people, staying underneath the trees and stuff like that. And the next thing Chief wants to do is like get a mural on that side, and like a large scale mural. And he's like, he wants that to be the goal, or one of the goals for 2022. And that, I mean, is right down Arts Commission Road as well. So I think there's a lot of things that those two committees can kind of like team up on, which would be pretty neat. I was also wondering, has there been any talk of returns to in person for this meeting, or have you guys really been liking the online?
There hasn't been much talk, and I'm not real sure what everybody thinks about it, honestly.
Yeah, not really up to me, but we've been doing public safety in person and obviously council, and it just kind of smooths everything out. Nobody has to travel very far for it, but it just makes the meetings pretty efficient, even if you consider the drive time. I think everything just like, there's no working out technical difficulties. You just start and get your business done and get out of there. But anyway, I just want to say again, thanks for having me back, and looking forward to working with you all.
I just have one. Well, first of all, did anybody have any thoughts about the whole idea of going back to real life versus virtual life meetings?
I'll say one thing, and that is, it remains to be seen what Thanksgiving and Christmas does for any COVID spikes. And if things go south again, then I wouldn't mind just staying the way we are. Otherwise, why not go to?
Yeah. Thank you, John. And yes, Miles.
That's a very good point, John. Plus, I like the convenience of virtual. I can do some multitasking, and everyone gets to speak and see each other. So I'm fine with continuing it for the time being. That's virtual.
Yeah, got you.
We had an AV consultant come in and price out some options for us at council chambers, and it's a very real possibility that soon or early 2022 we can start having kind of like hybrid meetings where it's like people that wanted to come in can come in, people that wanted to stay at home could stay at home. We changed some rules on council that said like obviously these advisory type committees don't need to be in person, and if the technology allows it, some people can come in, some people, so it's like Miles can stay home and just kind of like be video conferenced in, and we're going to get some better equipment there so that everyone can be heard, everyone can be seen, we can record it, etc., etc. So that might be a real viable option in the near future.
Yeah, that sounds great. That sounds really good. I would just say from my perspective, I'm still being rather conservative about my health and COVID. So I'm happy with the virtual mode for now until we know that we're a little clearer on the safety factors, Well, good. And I think I was going to try and get clarification. I asked somebody on your committee this, Rob, and that was, I don't understand exactly where the wall is that the chief wants to have a mural.
It's so where Brody comes underneath 290, it is kind of west of Stout House. So it's on that side where like 290 is raised and you have a big wall there. So he's working with TxDOT to get permission for that.
Yeah, Rob, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's like if you're at the intersection and the Brody, like the Verizon store is on your right, Wendy's is there to your left, and you're looking like over to your right, it's that large wall right there, right, Rob? Or is
that's my understanding. We've cleaned up from you know, we started down closer to kind of where David Bridle and Chair King are, and so we raised the canopy there and pulled out a bunch of trash. So that has been cleared, and then we're gonna finish it up on Thursday here, just kind of further down past Stow House. So if you drive through there, you'll notice that like a lot of the lower brush is taken out and lower branches are taken out, and we pulled a ton of trash out of there. And so that's just like kind of prepping it for now, then also like putting in a big mural. So yeah.
So the actual location would be if you're at the stoplight, you've got Wendy's on your left, Stout House would be on your right. There's a triangular piece of bridge support. And so would that be where the mural would be located?
I believe that is what we're going for.
Okay, and not the interior of the bridge walls that slide down on the sides. Okay. I was just trying to figure that out earlier and I couldn't get it. Well, it sounds cool.
I have a question. So Chief Carter is the one that's working on getting this approved. Is that what you said?
Yeah, he's a big proponent of kind of like broken windows theory of, you know, if people come into a neighborhood that looks like they care, and
Right.
so that's, you know, we had somebody tagging over near where I live. They were tagging the electrical box and also the sidewalk with just like constantly spraying. And Mark Wells was just like every other day would send out an email, and Sam would come out and paint over it. And eventually Chief put up like a game camera, and you know, it's like, I don't even think we cared that we ever caught them, but it's just like, we could do this forever. Like, you're going to run out of money buying spray paint before we run out of money painting over it. So it's just like, we just want to like tell this person that's like, just go across the street, just get out of here.
Right. What I was going to say is if we do get the permission, it would be nice to have an elevation view of that with dimensions, so we would know how to proceed size-wise.
Oh yeah, I'm looking at it here. It's probably 20 feet high and 60 feet wide. It's going to be a nice.
Yeah, but I mean, we need the actual dimension.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I mean, I've done that for many years in the movie business, measuring stuff. We could certainly do it, but if there's a drawing available, and also isn't there on the other side of Brody, not on just the west, but I mean the east, but isn't there a little piece on the west as well that the design could be incorporated, that
Yeah, I think if we
cross the road, so to speak?
Yeah, I think if we price it out, like you would know best, like what we're looking at for cost wise in this, and maybe there's some cost sharings between the two committees to like get it done, but will probably be twice the price.
Yeah. Okay.
John, your expertise is going to be very helpful when we get to that stage. So I appreciate it. Okay, I deviated, sorry. But I was curious because that is one of the things on our list. No, it's not. The electric boxes was on our list for this year.
I dropped the ball on that one. I actually had a contact with the Austin Department of Transportation, and everything was going the right way. And then
it should. Yeah, you can open it. Come on down.
I'm not quite sure like what I got sidetracked with, but that would be another fun one to kind of pursue. But Chief, I know, is big on this, and it's just like,
yeah, it's coming down.
Okay.
That's great. Just making sure people know where they are, and you know, if you're going to commit crimes, don't do it here. Like, go across the border.
Terry.
Yes, I'm going to have to leave the meeting for about 5 minutes. Electrician arrived at my house to restore power so we can have hot water. But I'll be back.
Okay. Thanks for letting us know.
Sure.
All right. So we can continue by hearing about reports on Art Fest. And I hope, let's see, Matt, can you make available what Michelle gave us?
I've been working with her on the forms. Did she send you a report?
Oh yeah, and I sent it to you a while ago and asked if you could have it available to pop up. It's her.
Let me look through my email real quick.
Okay. In the meantime, maybe let's switch and do our Facebook page, and then we can come back to that in a sec, okay, Matt and everybody?
Sure.
Okay, great. And so, Miles, somehow by default, you are still the man to report on Facebook page.
And it's with pleasure that I do that today. As was mentioned in the last meeting, after 3 months of the page being inactive, I wanted to reactivate it with some posts. And it certainly needs to be kept afloat by the time it becomes more and more relevant to ArtFest. And I've done that with 2 posts about Tammy West, our artist neighbor, having a gallery show, one just announcing the show and another one being a prod for people to go to the opening reception. And the second post was about the Brody Homestead having a classical rock concert last week. And that worked out very nicely. And there's a lot of discussion about that. And as Terry noted, it was interesting that we were moving into the area of accomplishing what CED and the marketing campaign had envisioned of directly supporting our local businesses, because this is what this is about. We have a local business, an event center, Brody Homestead, shifting away from just doing weddings and events and now having concerts. It's good for them. It's good for us. It helps build up the image of Sunset Valley being an artful place with live music. And I have a contact there, Juliana, who I've asked to keep in touch with me about future events. And I know they're having another one, a repeat of the classical rock concert in early December. So I will do another Facebook post about that concert, just saying it's back and everyone should check it out. Other than that, there are some things that I had hoped to post on there already, but haven't been able to. One was making the formal announcement about ArtFest 2022 having a date, something that we've known for several months now. And I've submitted the posts with several photos and got it down to one photo in discussions with me and Sasha, but I haven't gotten approval for it yet. It's sort of like laying in wait. I know from Karen's conversations with us a long time ago, she says that the art vendors like to know the dates as soon as possible, and in fact, even earlier than right now. The list that Michelle has to notify vendors is different than the list of people who are on the Facebook followers. So is there anything I can do to help get that post that I submitted a few months ago online, so that at least we will have covered that, check that off the box as something that we have to do.
And
I
so,
can speak to that, Sasha.
okay.
So we just posted, actually finalized today, the vendor registrations. And Michelle, I know you have a post. So I was going to ask the commission, Michelle and I were wanting to get it on the SV Arts Facebook page. So it's a perfect segue. So you have your post. Michelle also wrote 2 versions of kind of like an announcement. So, the commission is welcome to choose which one they want to post. But in the meantime, I put a link on the homepage that we're now accepting art and food vendor registration. And then this is the landing page. So it's sunsetvalley.org/artfest. I did originally have the link to the Facebook page on here, but I wanted to wait until we had the announcement. But basically, there's the art vendor registration form that I created here, and then the food vendor registration. So both are on the website now, so they're live. And the registration forms are going to be going to this email address here, which is arts@sunsetvalley.org, which is currently monitored by myself, but I'm also going to get Melissa in admin to help, and then we will work with Michelle. Michelle will be the Michelle, and between Michelle, Melissa, and myself will be coordinating the registration and payment of the vendors. So.
Okay, I'm glad to see that there's some work been going on in the background, or at least not within my view. But I would just urge you to do it sooner rather than later. It really should have been done months ago. And it's okay to repeat the announcement. I mean, if you send something in August saying, hey, everyone, ArtFest 2022 has a date, you could have done it in August or September or October and had something else now, another teaser saying the registration forms are available. So let's start thinking about being more timely in the future if we can, and not think that there has to be a single announcement. We have this pipeline to both attendees and to artists through the Facebook page, and it's good to have things on there. So it's okay to repeat something like that. So let me know if you want me to get involved or posting it or not. That's fine, but I'm glad that it's in the works. The only other thing is, regarding the Facebook page, this is actually not about the Sunset Valley Arts Facebook page, but about the Sunset Valley Residents Facebook page. We have quite a while been talking about giving a boost of visibility to the Bringing Art Home project, and it was, I think, agreed that it would be a good idea to do that. And when I saw that a neighbor, one Kathleen Johnson, sent an email to the committee about how great it was to get a hold of some kits around Halloween time, it occurred to me when I saw that, well, there's got to be some artists in that house. We need you. It would be a good idea to show art so that people can see that the Bringing Arts Home is more than just a name, that actually exists, and it's just a good thing to do. But then when I reminded Sasha about it, you told me to take it off my list of publicity for the Bringing Art Home. So is there a reason that you came to that decision, or is there any way that I can help make it happen if that's something you want to do?
Well, I think that in terms of, you mentioned Rob's wife, Kathleen, and luckily there are 3 children artists in that family who probably could be photographed with their faces showing, and it would be no problem at all holding up their art if their parents were to agree with that. So that might be a good subject. I think the issue was more, or what made me decide that we should hold off on is I wanted to get, let's see, Rob, show it. Okay. I think the issue was more that there was some sensitivity about whether or not children would be photographed with their art because of the fact that they were foster or pre-adopt kids. And so I was just kind of waiting for us to settle down to figure out what the best approach is on that. And yes, I think Ruth had also said that older residents didn't particularly want to be photographed, and you had been talking more about photographing the art work versus the individual who did the art. And I do think also that Rob's family might be an exception in that they might allow both the faces and the artwork to be shown. So I was just kind of wanting to back up a little bit. I still think it's a good idea to publicize that. And I wanted to do so in a measured manner. And so I see Ruth has popped in and has a commentary. So Ruth?
Hey y'all, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Two quick things. One is what the reason that those kids got art kits on Halloween is frequently if there are not, we every month we make 18 children's kits because that's the maximum capacity of that foster home. And if the foster home only had, say, 9 kids there, then the police officer takes those other 9 kits and puts them in his car and then just gives them out willy-nilly as he just goes about his shift or the next day's shift or whatever. So what happened was there was a low number of children at the foster home. The officer just randomly went around and handed out our extra children's art kits to whoever he saw. Sometimes it's, just kids playing in the playground at the school, which is usually what he's done. But, this time ended up over there. So I guess my first thought when it comes to that is I would appreciate if we would just show some children's results of their art kits and not the kids, because with our focus on the children in the foster home, and with, I guess what I'm thinking is what would happen if somebody saw that and then all the children in Sunset Valley said, bring art kits to our home, and the police force had to deliver them to all these kids all over the city. And so I guess I just want us to have some forethought as to how we promote it, because we created it because people were sheltered at home due to COVID. That was the whole point of this project. And so we still have that with us. COVID is still with us. So I just want to interject to the commission, ask them to think about that subject, about how they ended up getting art kits and whether that's something that can occur every month, because we don't know. If there's 18 kids in the foster home, then that foster home's going to get all the 18 kits that are made each month. So there's that. But I do have one other point if you all want to discuss this issue.
Go ahead, Miles.
First of all, that art is great. With or without the young artists, that's really good work. I thought one of the ambitions of the Bringing Art Home program was to let the people in Sunset Valley know that it was here and to encourage others to sign up. Or do we just want to say we're maxed out where we are and not encourage it, in which case the publicity is a double-edged sword. It shows the community where the money that we're using is going, but at the same time, we don't really want to ask people to contact us, although we've asked them in the past, because we don't want to grow the program. So which is it?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I think that's actually something that we need to be discussing when we look at next year or at this year's projects, because it's a valid question. And, I think you're right. It changes you're both right that it changes the breadth of and the scope of what we would be doing tremendously if we were to do all children in Sunset Valley, or even at the school. Yes, John.
I was, another thing, I know Chief wouldn't want us to have the police on camera or even their names, but maybe if we could just show them being delivered and set the shot up such that neither the kids nor the police are actually identified, but just the idea that as our version of community policing, which is a major issue around the country right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So I guess something to weigh as we're talking about this project for the entering year is, what should the scope be like? And I guess the answer to the question, Miles, about photographing or not, would be tied to that answer, I believe. And in the meantime, I don't know if it hurts to show some of the art that has been done, but why don't we wait until we get to that stage? I know that's difficult to do, but seems like a good idea to fit it into the broader scope of what it is we want to do with this particular project. Yes, Rob.
So about the Facebook page as well, Matt. I was looking on the calendar. Is this winter solstice? Who's a winter solstice party being put on by?
CED.
Is there any art? Is there any art tie-ins that we can have with that?
You're looking for musicians and fire dancers and the like performance.
Okay.
We have some gingerbread houses and some other things where we're going to try to curtail the fire stuff. Obviously, it's dry. Fire department has some issues. So we may need to incorporate some art or some other activity besides the gingerbread houses if we can't do the whole winter solstice thing.
What day is it on? We have about a month.
Yeah, we have a month, but yeah, I need to get the save the date out, but we need to know, what to put in the announcement. So we actually have a meeting tomorrow to finalize, or to finalize in general what's going to be at the event. CED had ideas, but we're not going to be able to execute all of the ideas that they want it to have. So that's where we are. But that event will be Thursday evening, December 16th.
Yeah.
So I contact, going out tomorrow for like the save the date and then with more details to follow. But that's like a resident event. It's not really for the general public. It's kind of like what Spring Fling was, but we're doing it in the winter.
Okay.
And I guess you were leading, Rob, to the idea that maybe some art could be present there.
When we had our, I forget what we called it, but all the committees coming with the council and everything else, and we those activities that Karen was running about, like, how can the different committees work together? And
right.
It's people would say like arts commission's over here and public safety's over here, but there's actually a lot of things that we can work on. And then CED having these kind of parties, it's like there is like an arts commission kind of like angle to it, and so that you can like kind of team up on these things. I don't want to throw too many people into it with 1 month to go, so it might not work for this.
Yeah.
But
we will have lots of art coordination for the beautification effort. We need to get you, Wanda, Sasha, and Clayton in a room to coordinate that.
Okay.
There was an agenda item last night about like beautification in the commercial district, and so that is one where it's going to be CED and Arts Commission pulling in one direction.
Right. Okay. And actually, interestingly enough, as this project about the eclipse was being discussed, Karen and I were both there, and we were able to talk about the fire event that we did years ago as part of the Arts Fest Art Commission. And so we got to share our information about that, because that turned out to have a lot of challenges associated with it that were overcome, but still required licensing and time and all those things that we don't have too much of this time. However, I feel like I've left Miles. You were talking about the Facebook page, and I was just wondering if you got the answers that you felt like you wanted to have right now.
Oh, I certainly did. I guess we're just on hold on a bunch of things. And that's fine. I'm finished. The report's finished now.
Okay. Yeah, on hold on the photos. And hopefully we can get back to that soon. But
and
I think
on hold on making the announcement of the date of the Art Fest, the festival. Those are two things on hold.
making the announcement on Facebook.
As far as my last, and speaking with Michelle, she's sending out the call for artists. She said either tomorrow by the latest Friday to the list that she has. But I asked her about other, obviously it's on the city website now. And then she said, yes, it would be good to put it on Facebook so that it's on all, sort of sources. So we are go for launch, so to speak, for announcing the date and that registration is open for ArtFest 2022 on the Facebook page.
Is there a deadline on that, Matt, for submissions?
Yes, April 1st.
Mhm.
April 1st. But, you know, hopefully a lot of the old, you know, the previous vendors will sign up, and then, you know, hopefully we'll have some new folks register this year. And then the food vendor, it's a little more complicated because they have to fill out this temporary food permit for City of Austin. So it's a little more complicated. Oh, and we did get the price change for artists. So the artist and artisan vendors are $75, and then we kept the food vendors at $115. So.
Okay.
And I did, Sasha, here is Michelle's report. And I
Okay,
can send,
good.
you want me to send this to the commission too?
Sure.
Please, or upload it?
And let's have a final comment from Ruth because we then need to move on.
Gotcha.
Ruth? Oh, Ruth has gone to pop. Okay. Ruth?
Okay, can you hear me all right?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, I had one other comment, and that was that when we were promoting the Art Fest at the very, very beginning on Facebook, we would also promote the food vendors that are coming. And we've, you know, frequently in the past, the Art Commission has had food at various public events that they've done. And I was wondering if it would be appropriate if the Facebook page could also have some mention of our local foods, because Miles wrote some really nice pieces that were on the Sunset Valley Residents Facebook page that could easily just be posted over there on our Sunset Valley Arts Commission page, if y'all think it would be appropriate that we also include culinary art as part of our spectrum of art media.
Thoughts? Miles?
I've always had difficulty of equating the type of food that's available in Sunset Valley with culinary arts. But if it's certainly it's extra publicity and promotion for our local businesses. In the case of Brody Homestead, it's natural. It's an event center and they have music. In the case of Cruz Teca, well, they have sort of a pickup band once a week on Thursdays for the time being. That is the connection to the story, less so than the food. So in summary and concept, I don't see the food being offered in Sunset Valley as being high culinary arts worthy of that type of spotlighting. And that it'd be better if there's a musical or an art tie-in like there is in the case of Cruz Teca having this Tex-Mex band. That's my feeling. Others?
Yeah. Red Robin, don't you want to post that all over your Facebook page?
Have you ever had a Bougie's donut, though? I mean, it is a piece of art.
Okay, well, that's different. But yeah, I'm a food snob, and so I'm probably not the best person to be too opinionated about that. But why don't we add that to our discussions with whoever is our new chair and have it be a topic of discussion further. Okay? All right.
If I may just interject one thing before I shut my mic back off.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say that the pieces that Miles wrote were cultural and that they were Asian foods on one and that it was Cruz Tech on the other. So as far as culture, if it's a cultural food, I think it has more of a art component to it in terms of art, culture, and like we include a cultural snack with the Bring an Art Home project. And when we have provided food at past art commission events, it was cultural food. If we're focusing on India, we had Indian food. If we're focusing on some of the others. So I definitely agree with you. I don't want to see Red Robin. I don't want to see Longhorn Steakhouse or BJ's or whatever. But when it comes to cultural, that's when I think the food that's available in Sunset Valley is worthy of mention.
Yeah, agree. Good point. Okay. Very good. So I just wanted to let you see, and I'm sorry that I didn't send this out earlier. This is Michelle's report that she makes to me every month about what she is up to. Oh, this is not it. I'm sorry. This is the agenda. Here it is. And so I think Matt also just sent you this document. So she does that monthly. Do you want to take a moment to look it over? Any comments?
Sylvia, just to note, because while I'm thinking about it, because I talked to Michelle today, we just need to confirm with AISD that the folks will have access, like that they'll be able to go out the day before the event, and then I think she spoke with the tent people, and they're gonna, need to have access to like 8 or 9 p.m. that night. So we just want to make sure that those big gates aren't closed, and then they can't pick up the equipment that they need. So that's something we can coordinate with AISD, right?
Yes, we need to coordinate with AISD, but I just spoke to their real estate person this morning regarding the beds at Jones. And they informed me, he's the new head of their real estate over there. They want to redo all of the contracts, ours included. There's some insurance things that are not standardized in our contract. And so we have access to that site based on the athletic director, but now the higher ups at AISD are getting involved. So somehow need to bring us all three. And I need to get specific information as to when we're going to need access, what time, who's going to be on there.
Okay.
And this we'll probably have to get additional liability insurance.
Gotcha. Well, that'll be something for staff and Michelle, and then whoever's in chair to work out very soon.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay. And Matt, do you want to show us the card that is, actually, we're supposed to make sure that everybody on the commission gets some of these cards so that you can hand them out. It's the call for artist cards.
There's some here at City Hall.
Yes, and so everybody needs to get some of those cards and be able to hand them out when you go to art events or to places where you think there might be artists. Are you able to pull that up, Matt, just so everybody can look at it? I think it popped really nicely finally, despite the intense purple and yellow. Are you able to? There you go. So
that's the front, and then where'd it go? There's the back.
So we need everybody to get some of those to be free to hand them out whenever you go to art exhibits or whatever, because people may want to make their entries. Okay. Any questions about that, about the card, or
the deadline? Is that on the front?
what, John?
Deadline for artists admissions.
Oh, I don't know. Let's see.
I'm sorry, what was the question?
Is the deadline for admission?
No, the deadline's not on there, but the deadline's on the website.
Okay, but not on the card.
Yeah, and by the way, thank you, Matt and Michelle, for working on the electronic version of the vendor registration cards.
No problem. Trying to modernize.
There we go. There we
Okay,
go.
here's one more question on the entertainers. Usually, if I remember right, we have to have that into TCA. Is it early January and then they tell us in February or something?
Let me
Mark?
check. Let me check the last application.
Okay, I'm sorry. I didn't hear what you said, Sylvia. Were you talking to us?
Yes, I'm going to check the last application I submitted for.
Oh, okay.
Grant applications for Texas Commission on the Arts.
Okay.
If the commission wants to use, right? Like, so that's if they want to use the TCA artists, entertainers. So
That's right.
that we've, in the past, we've received grants.
Yeah,
for.
and we decided, actually we didn't decide, but we discussed last month that their offering of musicians was fairly stagnant, and so we don't have to feel obligated to utilize them. But we can certainly look at what they've got.
The other problem was there's a short window to apply and hear back. You so close to the event, we can't use on our lot of our marketing.
Can't use it on what?
Can't tell which our headliner and the ones we get from TCA on like posters and things, because those have to kind of be printed before we hear, or right at the deadline or something. It's a time issue every year.
Mm. Okay. Need to be cognizant of that. And Sylvia, are you looking up something further, or what's our status?
Yes, you guys can go ahead, but I believe January is correct.
Okay. All right. Well, the next piece,
January 18th.
the next piece that we need to go to is the project planning for 2022. And I created a little chart for that, and Terry's supposed to help us with this. And so let me just text him. He texted me and told me it was taking longer than usual, and that I should let him know when we need him. And I think we need him now. All right. So what I wanted to do with this piece is, regardless of who's in charge of what or which art commission member is interested in what, we need to get our plan for this year built out, and we need to, now we're getting feedback again. Okay. Is that better? Not really. Let's see. So the intention was that we would look at this form.
Yeah, so should we keep getting feedback from you?
Yep, it's me.
Hello.
Okay. That should be better. The intention of the form. Are we still getting feedback from me?
We are, yes.
Weird. Okay. Well, maybe Terry can talk about the intention of the form since I'm getting feedback. Hi, Terry. We haven't started yet, but I just was trying to explain the overall intention of the form.
The forum?
Form. This form.
Okay, I'm trying to
Catch up.
see if I can.
Okay,
I'm
it looks
looking
like,
at the agenda, and which project you want me to speak to?
no, we're okay. I think I'm back to not giving too much feedback, right? Okay,
Okay.
so I'll give you a moment to catch your breath. So what I was saying is that the intention of this form was to enable us to practice, to get ready for what we want to do next year and look at some of the components that need to be covered for that form. And so in the first column, I have the project that we have been approved for general funds for this year. And then the next column is the resources that we will need and who are the stakeholders and what kind of timeframes should be involved. And is this project still of interest? And then you have over here on the right, a list of the cost of each one of the projects. And Terry and I were going to alternate on this and have each one of sort of lead the discussion on each area. And so, do you have any questions about the intent of the form, those of you that are here?
So I just wanted to ask if you guys had identified locations, for example, the environmental installation on city property or fiberglass sculptures, because Terry, I think you stepped away, but last night we had 66,000 left from the American Rescue Plan dollars, and the council approved it for beautification in the commercial districts. And so some of the conversation that we had with CED was bringing CED and Arts Commission together to bring that project to fruition. Public safety is already working on a mural component. And I just use my experience from downtown Corpus Christi. We started with planters and beautification and lights and cleanliness, moved to a mural, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And it just built on itself every other year. So council has agreed to 66,000. Now we need to work on putting that plan into place in coordination with the committees. So I just wanted to know, I see a price in your budget column, but has there been any discussion on location of some of these?
You're talking
No.
about the fiberglass sculpture? I'm trying to
Yes,
follow.
the glass sculpture and the environmental art.
Yeah, no, there has not been discussion about the location at this point. That's something we might want to discuss here. Yes, Terry.
Yeah, when we get to the item, if you, or depending on when you want to deal with it, we've talked with people, we have had discussions with stakeholders, with the environmental committee and with some residents and with the organic garden. But I can address that when we get to it.
Okay. So the first one, so Sylvia, that's good news. And we'll see how we can implement that and use that money fruitfully in conjunction with the CED. So on that note, let's take a moment to just look at the Facebook page and let's talk about what is it that we might, what resources might we need for that beyond the financial resources that we have delineated there. Any? Yes, Miles.
One resource is bandwidth. I wrote and posted 70 posts from November to July, and when I stopped, no one picked up the slack. So what we need is more member talent to participate in the maintenance. Alternately, there was this idea that there would be a budget item for someone on staff who would maintain this page. but that's been a can kicked down the road for a long time. If we're looking at an Art Fest date of April 30th, by the time anyone's hired and that gets rolling, I don't think we can expect help from that dream situation that there's a professional on staff who would participate. So that's one resource that needs to be considered. And in terms of funding, this $1,200 we have here was really based on my posts of featuring artists and other things to develop the following of the Facebook page, using ad boosts and occasionally having an artist. But it doesn't, it's not inclusive of any Art Fest marketing on Facebook. So now that we know a lot more about it and we have an activated Facebook page and we see how, from our own experience doing the Facebook ad boost and from observing what Ampersand has done, you can throw money at it and get good results. But I'm not an expert at digital marketing. And that's why it would be nice if if you could bring someone in one way or the other on staff or as a freelancer or something to help us in that direction. Ultimately, there is a community member, Stacy Leonard, who is an industry pro. She's been very helpful in counseling the ad hoc about how it are to review phase 1 of Ampersand's campaign. And she has offered to, advise and counsel, but I don't know if that's the same things the actual doing. So the short answer is yes, resources, we need more bandwidth, whether it's our members or a person on staff or hiring someone else. The second part of the answer is money at $1,200 is fine, but that was not intended to be, the Art Fest marketing. Maybe some of that could go to that. We haven't used any bit in the last 4 or 5 months. I don't know what the dollar cost would be. Let me turn that off, I'm sorry.
All right, good information, Miles. Let's see, what do we need?
Okay.
Who do we need to be involved from the community? Really, you responded to that by talking about, who's gonna fill the bandwidth, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is there further?
I know it's another line item for the agenda, but do we have any ideas of how the applications for joining this commission have been going with the deadline 14 days away? Has anyone been soliciting people? Is there any reason to think that we're going to have some extra people in the committee?
Everyone here has volunteered. Terry is unfortunately not going to be able to serve. He's got some other stuff going on, but then we did have Carla Jenkins turn in her application today. So, but everyone else that's in attendance now has turned in, and Karen. So Karen and Carla, plus everyone here minus Terry. There we go.
And
James applied, but to be appointed as a alternate again. So.
Okay. And I have done a little bit of this, but not a lot. But I have a few more people that I would like to approach about it. So, especially those of you that are that know of young artists, etc., please feel free to talk with them about it. Okay. All right. What are the desired times?
Was there anyone to put in under stakeholders, just maybe volunteers, or we need I didn't know if there was a clear something to type under stakeholders for the social media.
Well, I think the stakeholders
resources needed. I don't know.
Yeah, I think the stakeholders really are um, our whoever can assist us with the process, right? And I think that's all we need to put in that regard.
Volunteers then, is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Desired timeframes. Well, Miles is indicating two. One of them is related to ArtFest, and for the rest, it's sort of an ongoing thing, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And then ArtFest, and ArtFest, Matt.
Well, Art Fest, I mean, we can put Art Fest, but just to remember that any kind of plugs, boosts or whatnot for Art Fest will come out of the Art Fest advertising, because that's a separate fund. So this is a general fund. So, I mean, Art Fest is still important to put on the Facebook page, but for funding purposes, I'll just put it in, in
You're right.
parentheses.
Yes.
But yeah, but any kind of funding for like if I don't know if an event page, if you create an event page on Facebook and you want to boost that event page, you would use the hot fund dollars allocated for that.
Got you. Right, you are, of course. Good point. Good thinking. All right. So,
Well,
Terry. Yes, John.
let me just ask Miles, because you said you didn't want to be the person writing this, but nobody else picked it up. So are we looking for one of us or a volunteer to continue writing the arts page? Not necessarily Art Fest, but just in the general.
Yes, one of the group, or someone bringing someone new, or just someone to add some bandwidth in this particular area. That's what's needed.
Yeah.
So when we're talking with people, we should ask them if they have any interest in working on that. So it doesn't just sit there with no action.
Yeah, good point. Good point, John.
Okay, so I think that's enough for that one, right?
Yes, and don't you love it, Terry? I did the easy one and left you with this one.
What, fiberglass? Is that where we are? Yeah.
Yes, we're fiberglass. Yeah.
Well, let me start by talking about what's been done today and what the concept was. And it's part of promoting the arts in the city, and also with an eye toward Sunset Valley being a destination city. People may want to come here, primarily motivated by getting more people in the business district, but also and the third item was to enhance the experience of residents who are currently living in Sunset Valley. So we had this Fiberglass Sculptures idea, and one of the things that was discussed was actually fiberglass sculptures that represented something that's iconic or iconoclastic, or something that says Sunset Valley, and actually putting them in the conservation areas to draw people into there, either from the business district or residents. We've talked with the environmental committee in regard to that. We also, may I bundle these two things together, environmental installation art, or have you already talked about it?
No, bundle.
Okay, so that project has to do more with both environmental, have discussed it, and so have P&E, and also the organic garden folks who have an interest in this. The idea was an interactive installation art, and this was kind of directed toward residents and children. And so this one didn't necessarily have the business district in mind, but it does promote the arts in Sunset Valley. And people who, from both P&E and Community Garden, have expressed the interest. The fiberglass was designed to actually not go in the business district per se, because that amount of money is not much money or anything that's big and attractive. The idea was to, since we were enhancing one of the sales points for Sunset Valley should be the beautiful, our trail system and the beautiful environment. And so the fiberglass was to come up with some ideas with community input with what are the signature images, let's say, for Sunset Valley, and to place these along trailways. Of course, that can be changed by the committee coming in. And I know that there was talk in the past doing that along the way of around DS, Villa's neighborhood. We were also looking at the trail system. It's a kind of like an ancillary project to the sculpture project that I'm not up to date on, but I understand the CED has talked about. This would tie into that in that it's something else.
Terry, can I stop you there for 1 second?
Sure.
So you said there's not much money, but then someone, was it Sylvia, just said that there's this $66,000 that
Yes,
could be
John.
added to this,
Yes.
right?
And John, that is so the motion was, and the direction was from CED, kind of specifically tied to the commercial districts. Doesn't mean that it can't be on, city-owned property or right-of-ways, but really the putting some art beautification in and along basically Brody and other commercial districts, and then delineation of the city. And what we mean by that is, Ampersand and the marketing ad hoc really recommended maybe kind of zhuzhing up our kind of somewhat muted monument signs that we have, and really kind of delineating like, okay, you're in Sunset Valley, or other things like making our street signs, colorful, and putting our logo on this and logo and fonts on the street sign. So really just kind of delineating for folks coming in that, hey, you're now in Sunset Valley. So that is the direction for recommendation from the CE committee that council approved last night. So
And that's the 66,000 you're talking about.
Correct. Now,
Okay.
so if
that could replace those signs we now have coming in off of Westgate onto Jones, and also Brody just there before you get to Home Depot, those signs.
Well, not necessarily. So we haven't come up with a plan per se. It was approved to begin a beautification project, but any project still requires a plan. So that was when I saw this. Obviously, there's immediate ties. I know P&E may have spoken about the trail system, but I remind that there's trails between the Coles, there's trails along Jones, and so that might be one of the first places to start to sort of get the project up and going. But so that's why I want the chairs and the liaisons to meet, to get a joint committee meeting going, to develop a plan that we can really execute properly, both from the art perspective and the economic development perspective that CED wants.
Fiberglass things is the dumping on things.
Okay.
Sorry,
So
Terry, didn't mean to go into this whole other discussion.
No,
I just wanted to see if there's more money than.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so Terry, you mentioned that that wasn't a lot of money. So 10,000 isn't a lot of money, or the 66,000 isn't a lot of money?
Oh, the 10,000.
Oh, yeah.
No.
Well, and I think originally when Ampersand was talking about some really large sculptures replacing our monuments at the entrance to our city, the tombstones as they refer to them, They were looking at some larger, nice art pieces right at the entrance. The delineation didn't need to be that quote unquote tombstone. It could have been a beautiful piece of art, an aesthetic or moving kinetic piece of art.
I want to throw out too that, and under the resources needed column for the sculptures, the art installation, for several of these, and in conjunction with the CED projects, we're going to need to finalize the art in public places policy. So
Yes, that's the only reason I joined, to see where you guys are on that.
Oh, and it's not even really a topic for today, but.
Because
Okay.
obviously we're going to need to get that in place before CED sort of takes a jump at any of it.
Right.
It's gonna be the framework for any beautification effort that begins.
Well, and I would just ask, is CED going to take a jump at it independently?
Sorry, I keep muting and unmuting. I wouldn't want them to. You guys started on it. I think it's, I mean, certainly if you want to have them give input on a final draft, that would be appropriate. But you guys have been working on it, I think, for the better part of 2 years. So.
Okay. So Terry, we derailed everything. So let's let you take the helm again.
Karen had her hand up. Sorry.
Oh, who did?
Karen, it's Karen. If I could
Oh,
just, so Sylvia, it was my understanding that in the last Arts Commission meeting, they put forward what they liked about that list of criteria for art in public places, and it was going to go to Barbara in legal to come back with a policy.
that's right.
Has she seen that, Matt?
I don't know. So I need to get that to her if she doesn't have it already.
Yeah, that was the plan at the last meeting.
Apologize if I missed that.
Okay, so going back to Terry. Yes.
Yeah, I'm going to follow up on the environmental installation art, because that project was directed toward residents and their children. Basically, it was to be a destination for kids and parents, so kids could engage in the environment, and it would be located not near the business district, but probably in the vicinity of the organic garden.
So we need to change that joint committee meetings and take it out under resources. And
Well, it wouldn't hurt to get that we have informed environmental planning and environmental, and there's interest there, and it would be helpful to have them engage. There's also interest in the community garden. I think they will engage. It just needs to be followed up.
What other resources do you think we might need to achieve? Let's stay with the environmental installation for a minute. I'm asking the group across the board. Any other resources?
Well, I think we could ask. I'm sorry.
You go ahead.
I think we could, through our communication system on the Art Commission, we could ask some of our artists for their input too. We have one of the best regional environmental artists who in Sunset Valley,
Right.
Tammy West. So we want to get her involved.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I know there was some citizens, and that was one of the things that happened this term. The citizen-inspired art. There were citizens who were interested in this project, and so we thought we'd want to circle back and contact them. I think one of them is Lisa Versa.
Lisa Versace.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, also, wasn't Ruth talking to the Home Depot? They were interested in helping with the community garden as one of their projects, and they would supply material.
Okay, so that could be a resource.
Yeah. Great, John. Thanks.
What? Is that not
Okay, and so the other, I think the other stakeholders are the residents in the community and possibly their children, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. And what about timeframes? When would we like to see that happen? Sorry, Terry, I'm taking over your
No,
domain.
go for it.
Just remind me, so this will be helpful for, I guess, when it comes to like the pitching it and working with other committees, and eventually it'll have to go to council. But correct me if I'm wrong, Terry, but this piece, the environmental installation, it has more of an education. It's kind of more of an educational. Well, it's both. It's like educational and recreational, right? It's like for enjoyment, but it's also
it
education.
engages children in I'm sorry, Matt, finish. Go ahead.
Oh, that was it. Yeah, go ahead.
One of the goals is to engage residents and children in environmental activities, appreciation of environment. A primary goal was to engage people in art and build the visibility of art. And the other goal was another goal. I'm not listing these in the order of priority. Was a creative activity for children, which has educational value.
Got it.
Okay. Good. Okay. So, Terry, next column, timeframes.
Well, because I'm leaving, I don't know if but I would really recommend you put it on an agenda for your first new meeting.
Maybe discussion item, and then just discussion action of then what are the next steps to reach out, right? Reaching out to the other resources and stakeholders, right?
Yes.
Engage. We'll call it engagement, right? So there's engaging with the community garden, so that has to be coordinated. And I don't know who is the president of that now. Is it?
Oh, I'm blocking on her name. I know who it is.
Tanya.
That's right. Okay, yeah. So it's kind of engaging with it's Tanya with the community garden, P&E, anyone else that we want to involve.
And I think the Home Depot part of what they was doing some fencing repair, because that garden fencing is in bad shape. So that would have part of it. That's a separate project.
So Matt, can you put under engagement, who are some of the people that would be engaged, just in parentheses? Excellent. Yeah, which I think we've kind of actually, I see it in the second column, but good to have it clarified. Okay. Terry, any further comments?
Oh, not on this item.
Okay.
So I'm guessing that we put a yes then for, since we've talked about this and filled it out, that this is a yes.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yep. And now we get to go back upwards to the fiberglass sculptures. And Terry, this is in your hands.
Yes,
Excuse me, before we move on, may I just make one quick comment?
Yep.
I just wanted John to know and the commission to know, I wasn't able to listen thoroughly because I was with a customer, but Home Depot is going to be replacing the community gardens fence as a donation to the city.
Cool.
Yeah, I'm on the committee here at Home Depot for community involvement. And in fact, today I have a meeting after work for an hour to make the quote sheets and get the materials ordered to replace the fence around the community gardens. So just want to let you know that. It's good news.
That is
right.
yay. Thanks, Ruth.
Well,
Okay.
in regard to the fiberglass sculptures, the art in public places policy would need to be ratified by the city council, and the work is done, so it's to the attorney. There needs to be discussions with CED, perhaps a meeting with them. From what Sylvia said, I understand that they're pretty open-minded, pretty wide open in regard to what objects will be created, et cetera, and where they'd be placed. And so the art commission would want to consult in regard to artistic merit and support in regard to locations, et cetera. It'd be great if there was a tie-in with theme across the city, so that what's being put in the business district is in the family of what we're putting in trails and conservation spaces, but trails in particular, because those get used a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So again, on the time frames, I won't be here to promote that. But I would ask you to put it on your agenda at your next meeting.
Yep. Okay.
So
And
is it the same then as the last one? It's a discussion, action item in January. And it's the same thing. It's engagement, right? With the other, with P&E, CED, it's, but it's also probably, you know, I guess maybe, I don't know if Sylvia's still on, if there is going to be a plan for this, or for the larger, for like what was passed last night.
Yeah, we have to come up with a plan.
Yeah.
We can't just go and
Right.
go and spend it, as we learned about the emergency.
And I guess too, maybe, council retreat this year. The council is going to, so hopefully the council retreat, just as an update to the commission, the date has not been finalized, but council did take action last night where they quote unquote canceled the second meeting in January. So they're going to meet once in December on the 7th, and then they're going to meet on January 4th, and then sometime mid to, you know, late January will be the retreat. And the goal is to have had all the committees and the Arts Commission meet with the new, because the appointments will be made at the 7th, and then have all the committees meet and elect their chairs and vice chairs. And then at some point, for a portion of the retreat, not the entire retreat, but a portion of the retreat, will be kind of a workshop with the council and the chairs and vice chairs, so that everyone can kind of be on the same page for goals for the year. So I'm sure this, you know, this item will come up, and the need for, you know, work and strategizing between the different committees to implement this project. So Just wanted everyone to be aware of that. So the commission will need to think about that. I think the commission's not meeting in December from what I hear. And so they'll need to pick a date, you know, in January to meet and elect, you know, the leadership for the coming year.
Yes, actually, I was just making myself a note that the majority of our members are going to be gone on the meeting date for December. And so we were just planning on skipping the meeting and starting afresh in January with the election of the new chair and co-chair and whatever members are on the commission at that point. And that is one reason why Terry keeps on talking about January, because we won't be having a December meeting. One thing I wanted to just mention in terms of the fiberglass sculptures, I know that Karen and possibly John did a significant amount of research on this a couple of years ago. And I remember that one of the figures that sticks in my head is that to do for a city that Karen had researched, had undertaken a project like this, and it turned out being a 3-year project, I think, 2 or 3 years, and the cost was $72,000. And so I think it's very interesting to consider the possibility of finding a way to sync this project, if possible, like SYNC, not SINK, with whatever the community is doing in that regard, to look, or CED or whatever, to look at if there's a way to use those funds, the larger funds, for this, and also to have an artistic link between what is done, so that it's just not random pieces of art being stuck in different places. So if that makes any sense.
Well, you know, this was done years ago with CED in combination with the Arts Commission, and we were to do something with the donkeys, because people used to remember seeing the donkeys at the Weaver Place going up and down Brody. Well, that has long since passed, as the people that still remember that even are dead or moved or not. Maybe they still come down Brody, I don't know. But we did our part. We got 2 maquettes made. They're on display still in our lobby, and CED never did anything with it. So I don't know what any of those figures were for, but that was a same kind of idea that didn't pan out. So this time I hope we can take it and run with it. That's all I'm going to say.
So,
Yes.
I did do some research on this to bring it up to date and talk to the folks in San Marcos, because they did mermaids. And so it's just like the Hutto hippos, the mermaids that San Marcos did. The concept of this was to have one image, and there's a company in San Marcos that actually does the fiberglass maquette or full-size models. And then what you do is you get businesses or people to sponsor an artist to decorate each one, similar to what happened with the guitars in Austin. And so that was the concept of this, and the research I did just last year, which I had forwarded to Sasha and I think to you, Terry, that had all that financial information, what they ran into, what they had to think about for when they did the installation. So that's pretty recent information, just FYI.
That's great, Karen. Thank you. All right, so that's a resource, Matt, that we can add into the Fiberglass Sculptures. Oh, you already did. Oh, you're just so far ahead of me. That's so great. Okay. Terry, what else on this one? Anything?
Nothing else on environmental installation. I think we covered it.
And on Fiberglass Sculptures?
I'm excited that there's enough money to do something cool. That might
Yeah.
not- yeah.
So I guess one of the things we need to put under that $10,000 is plus whatever contributions might come from this new, what is it called, an environmental beautification budget? I don't know what it's called, Sylvia or Matt. Anyway, potential additional funds.
Sorry, I was muted and talking. It's American Rescue Plan dollars that are left over from the
Okay.
grants we gave to the businesses. So we were awarded 166 and some change, and this is the 66.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right. So bringing art, I guess we're ready to move on. Is everybody ready to move on to the next one, bringing art home? Okay, I guess that means yes. So on bringing art home, this is Ruth's baby. And the discussion we had at our last meeting was about what did we want the scope of this project to be. I guess we need to try to go through and outline what resources we do have in existence or will need to have in existence, and also look at who the stakeholders are. And then we can maybe dovetail this with our conversation about what we want to have happen with this project. And so on that note, for this project, the resources that we would need would include, what? Do you want to say anything about the resources needed, Ruth?
Thank you, Sasha. Yes, under the current budget that's approved, there and the limited resources I'm finding in terms of art kits for adults, we probably will not have enough funds to fulfill monthly art kits for the year. So if we do want to expand the program, like open it to all children or anything like that, we're going to have to shift some money around of the budget that the city has given us. So there's that piece. I don't know if you all want to talk about that first.
All right, Ruth, just another question. Are you still seeing the like supply, read about it everywhere?
Yeah, right now I have enough kits to get us through December, and half of what I need for January. I'm still resourcing it. So yeah, there's some issues here with that.
Because I know you were trying, very diligently to pretty much keep all the money flowing into Sunset Valley, right? From the different.
Right. And I've pretty much tapped that out. I'm gonna have to go to Amazon or Walmart or something. I did get the tie-dye shirts from Walmart this go around.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm
So
multitasking.
Yeah. So I think some of the questions that we need to ask here are, what is the current relevance of this program, given that it was implemented primarily thinking about COVID? And the second one would be, how much profile has it given our commission to have this program? And then the third one would be, what kinds of suggestions might we have for change if we would like to keep it and we don't necessarily know about getting more funds or shifting funds?
That sounds perfect, Sasha.
Okay. And that's, of course, not really as much in the framework of all of this, but hopefully it helps us to be able to think about this item in our chart. So any thoughts about the first question I asked, which hopefully somebody remembers?
I think not, what's the word? Not legitimacy. Yeah, like, you know, the program was created during COVID, right? So when people were generally, everyone was stuck at home, right?
Right.
So that was, I think that was question one.
Thank you, Matt. So
So we
any
could change it to quarterly or every 2 months or on just special holidays. There's lots of ways we could look at it.
what do you think about, because I guess if we're kind of thinking about all three of these together, what about how do you think it has benefited us as an Arts Commission to be sponsoring this program? And I'm opening this to anybody who has comments. Yes, Terry.
Yeah, well, just specifically, it gave the Arts Commission and the PD worked together on this program. They were the delivery. We implemented and put everything together, and so that, and we show that those two entities can work well together. And it helped the police department as well as the visibility of the arts in Sunset Valley, because it put the police in a role that was kind of like Santa Claus instead of in a role of enforcing rules and regulations. The elderly people gave us feedback. Some people with children took the time to write us and tell us how valuable it was to them. It definitely is engaging some families to get more involved in our community, and the elderly are feeling supported. I know that the focus on the CED is primarily commercial now, and so the old community development function was more engaged with kids and the elderly. So this is something that the city's doing for kids and elderly, to make a long story short. And it's successful. And although it's not huge, I think there's 26, 27 people involved who are getting deliveries, children and elderly folk. It's a successful project. And that both by the feedback we're getting from the public, and also it keeps growing. More people are getting involved. So even though, of course, COVID is unpredictable because nobody expected variant D that came along and set the recovery from COVID back, but even without the presence of COVID, I think it has value to the community, and it dovetails into making people more value the community. I mean, specific groups, kids and the elderly. It has value to those groups. I think it had something to do with one we're going to get to, which is resident-inspired art events, which was a real exciting development. I'd like to take that one when we get to it, Sasha, because that's a really cool thing that's happening.
Yeah.
So I would argue that, well, not argue, I would encourage the commission as you go forward to continue this program. Now, I know that Home Depot, from discussions with Ruth, and she can say this is wrong, but I don't think they have these kits that were kind of like the backbone for this, the Home Depot program where you would go build things at Home Depot. They were getting those kits from China and the Pacific Rim. And because of the breakdown in transportation that's occurring, the backlog at the ports, etc., I don't think they have those available. And that is driving the cost of this, providing this up. So I would, if Ruth is willing to continue to facilitate it and people support it, I would argue, not argue, I would say this is something you have going that's good and valuable, and dropping it doesn't make sense to me unless there's just no resources and no people who will engage in it. That's it.
Okay. Any other thoughts from Miles, John? Thoughts about the benefit of this program?
I think until the supply chain, isn't as much of an issue, we need to just not do it as often. I mean, what else can we do? I mean, I'm after what Terry just said, I'm now worried about Home Depot being able to supply Art Fest with their little planes and pots that the kids painted and all that, for their kids' craft area.
Okay.
But looking at it another way, once that does all break loose, there's probably going to be some really great sales. You'll be able to get Halloween stuff in July.
There we go.
Okay. If I may, Terry and John.
Yep.
Okay. I did check into that early on when I first started to see problems with Five Below. That's where I was getting all the adult kits. And Home Depot has warehouses and resources for these little wooden kits that the kids make. They're called kids workshops. I wouldn't worry about that. I'm more concerned, and I'm not worried about kids art kits because those are easy to come by at a good price. I'm more worried about cheap adult art kits. That's what I'm having a hard time with.
Okay, that's helpful. So are we at I think there's a general consensus that it's a program that benefits the community.
Yes.
And that we're happy to be sponsoring. So I think we probably need to make a quick decision. And I say quick because we still have 2 more areas to cover here. A quick decision about, it seems like we still want to continue this program. Any thoughts about the best way to go about doing that? John, you suggested some. Do you want to repeat what you said?
Okay, well, Ruth said she's good for December and part of January. So why don't we not do the January and do it in February? By then, we'll have enough to perhaps put a February one together. And then February, another one, well, April is Art Fest. That's not a good month, I guess. I don't know. It just seemed like every other month maybe, or something like that.
Yeah.
Um,
What do the rest of you think about that idea? Every other month?
I guess it's like, do we just do it when we can? Then people never know when to expect it. Or should we do it to where they know that they got your kit this month, but they won't be getting it the next, but they will the following, and keep it like that until, instead of making it a complete surprise to people, I don't think we want that either.
No. So let's make a decision collectively about whether or not we want to do this every other month or every quarter.
Well, how about for now, do it every quarter? That way it could be any one of those 3 months. At least get it in a time frame like that.
So maybe for 2022, then you move, because Ruth has December, right? Ruth has December.
In part of January.
So
I'm pretty sure I can gather up enough stuff for January. So yeah, come the end of January.
Okay, well, I would say start doing quarterly in 2022. So
yeah,
then you don't have to stress. Then Ruth, you don't have to worry about necessarily fulfilling January. You can kind of, see how things are and gauge. The commission can help gauge, okay, well, what month in, January, February, March is best for the Bringing Art home, and then April, May, June. So, you know, you break it up quarterly starting in 2022.
And why don't we make it like the middle month? So the first quarter is January, February, March. So we do it in February. Then the next quarter is April, May, and June. So we do it for May. And then July, August, and September, do it in August.
Okay, so
Then
John,
October, November, December, do it for November.
let's make an overarching decision for right now that we'll do it quarterly, if you're all in agreement, and we can define what exactly month that will be.
Then we have to think about our year ends in the end of September too, though.
Right. So can we make a decision that we think quarterly is sufficient for now, and then sort of hammer out the details further?
Yeah.
So I guess, does that have to be a motion, Matt? I think it does.
I don't think it needs to be a motion. I think if there's just consensus, and I would say that we maybe at the very end when we're done with the chart, we make a motion to approve the chart and then anything we've discussed with the projects.
You see, we could get 3 quarters in with our budget year. First, second, and third quarter, which would end in September. So if we did what I said, was to do the middle month of each quarter, that would be February, May, and August.
Yes, and that could work out perfectly. Actually, John, I'm going to be candid here. I don't want to hammer that out right now because we still have a few more things we need to get completed. And if we spend too much time trying to figure out the exact month,
Well, I
then
just told you. Just quarters.
okay. So let's plan on quarterly. We good with that?
Ruth, is that good for you?
Quarterly?
I'm sorry, y'all. If you don't mind, quarterly is good with me. Let's figure out the dates another time. Like, I don't know that we even have to do that as a commission, do we? Can I just take a look at the availability of stuff and how things are going?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
So quarterly's great, starting in 2022.
Okay. Great. Thank you all. Miles, you didn't get to opine on that. Did you agree?
It sounds good.
Okay. Good. Time frames. Well, basically we can just put quarterly for now.
Yeah.
All right. And I can just quickly take the graffiti to art electric project, and I would say that I wish that Rob were here because he might have more information, but my understanding is that we can't really do anything about that until, there you are, Rob, good, until the chief works out a plan with Austin to do something about that. Is that correct?
I talked to someone in the Austin Department of Transportation, and they gave me someone else to talk to that kind of like ran the art box program, and it seems like it'd be easy enough just to be like, just get permission to say like, can we paint this? And they might just say like, yep. Especially if like we're going to like fund it, find the artist and everything else, but we just don't want to. We don't want to just paint it without talking to them.
So are you thinking that's a go and that our amount on that is sufficient?
I think maybe Terry and John would have a better idea of how much it costs to paint one of those. Chief identified 4 boxes. I have the locations of those. I have to like look back through my whatever, but he said that if if Arts Commission wants to share the cost, that's cool. But Chief said that he would probably have enough money in that budget to pay for it. So
Okay.
You
So
know, Kieran and I went to an art festival in Brenham, and one of the events were these graffiti artists competing with each other. And one of the booths here was a company here in Austin that sells the paint and ways to remove it and all that. So I got the guy's info on there. So you know, that'd be a source for us for the materials.
cool.
that is good. So you maybe share that with Rob if you could. So,
Terry has his hand up there.
Yeah, just
Terry.
follow up with Rob. Rob asked a question, and I did find there are several active groups of high-end muralists in town.
Mm-hmm.
Groups of people, and I'm networked into one of them, and so it could be done the size of these boxes for the painting part, the artist part, the $250. Now, if we get $250 a box, so we could actually do it. If we use esoteric paint, there has been discussion about that. There'd be an additional cost, but it sounds like with the participation, with the chief's willing to take this on from his own budget. So the commission, I think it's appropriate for the commission to be involved in this. So it seems to me like you have enough funding to do this. It's just the bureaucracy, and that's just part of the performance art part of this. Rob, is the dance with the bureaucracy to get somebody to say okay.
Yeah, and you know, in defense of City of Austin, I'm the one who I I had the email, and I think I was just kind of like, yeah, I was the one that dropped the ball, so I was the bureaucratic red tape there.
That's great.
Okay, but we're interested in pursuing the project, and yes, you're forgiven, Rob. Not to worry. So we are interested in pursuing that project, yes. All right, and in terms of timeframes, I guess that's going to be more up to PD than it is to us, right?
Yeah, I know Chief was pretty interested in. I don't know how much PD has to do. Like, it might just be money on their side that they're contributing, and for the big mural, which this is not part of, there's like text dot that he has to deal with. So and he's gonna run that down. But for this one, it seems pretty. There's not much left to do here on this one. Just get permission and then pick which I can work on. Pick the artist, vet the theme, and then get it done.
Yeah, we want to be involved with picking the artists.
Yeah.
Okay, sounds good. So here we are. It's 3:57, and we have 2 more important elements to get through. I never remember the right protocols for this. Do we need to have a motion to be able to continue the meeting for 15 more minutes?
Not at all. There's no end time posted. It's just kind of a, we like to be done by 4.
Yes. So can I ask instead then whether those of us that are here would be willing to stay another 15 to 20 minutes to complete this? Yes, good.
Yeah.
John, what about you?
Sure. I just have zoning at 6.
Oh, yeah. Well, we'll try to get finished quickly then, okay?
I have a meeting. I have a meeting at 4. So is there anything else you need me for?
We need you for everything, my dear.
Yeah.
But I'm not thinking well enough to be able to really answer your question, but I think we're good for now, and we look forward to future work with you.
Absolutely.
I'll copy you in the email, Rob, because I'll send, once we're finished with this document, I'll send it out to everybody and copy you.
Okay, cool. Thank you, Matt.
Thanks,
Bye, guys.
Rob.
Have a good one. super excited
Okay.
about this plan here.
Yay. Thanks. Okay. So resident-inspired, this was something you wanted to take, Terry.
Yes, ma'am. We had a grassroots a teaching class associated with the community garden that was initiated by residents and run by residents. And then Miles documented it and did some publicity, I think, pre and post through the
Right.
Facebook. And that inspired this idea, which is to really encourage this on the part of residents by setting up a fund to pay for art supplies. These classes are open to adults and children. So far, the instructors have been volunteers, and this would, the city, the Art Commission and city could participate in encouraging this by paying for the supplies. And in regard to how to set that up, we have mechanisms in place already to reimburse people when they incur expenses on officially approved events or activities. So I want to encourage to go forward. In terms of resources, Community Garden was involved in the one that Miles participated in. And so they're definitely a resource. Yeah, I think some of the interest in even doing that was built by the promotion Miles was doing through the Facebook site back during COVID when we were trying to offer art classes through the site. You could tune into the site to get art classes. I think that actually helped stir it up, help inspire some of the interest in this. So resources, there would need to be a mechanism to get this word out, not the city newsletter, that would be great, and et cetera. But really, I think the Art Commission's own social media effort, if it can get properly supported, would do this. Would then so this is basically a cost reimbursement project for grassroots inspired art events, specifically art classes, but I guess it could be something else as well.
Okay, so in terms of resources, you were citing social media as
social media and the community garden, because they have strong interest in this.
Yeah. And
it was actually a young person that did it, who was the leader, someone who was not of adult age.
Okay, Matt, so we're going to put under resources, we're going to put social media and the community garden participants, as it were, or the community garden. Okay. And yeah, we'd have to do some media to get the story out as well, to let people know that this possibility exists, right? Okay. And then the next is the stakeholders.
Well, for the stakeholders, this program is directed toward artistic education, and it's the parents, it's the kids. It's primarily directed. It's a residential program rather than a commercial program. I don't know if there is I don't think at this point, I think the only organized group we have as far as the artistic community in Sunset Valley is actually the Art Commission. So members of the Art Commission, you are stakeholders in getting this word out if you so choose to. But again, this isn't a government program. This is a people-driven program.
Right, you are. Okay. All right. And timeframes, is that what's the next item, Matt? Timeframes?
Yes.
Okay. So we'd want to get going on this pretty soon, I would think, right? And I want, go ahead. Did you want to say something, Terry?
Yes, no, I was just agreeing with you, Sasha. So this is just, kick this off would be to make people aware of this opportunity, if they, and a mechanism for them to communicate. So let's say if there's someone in the community who wants to teach art class, and we know they're there because we had several residents actually offer to do art classes for free over when we're trying to set up the internet-based art class. They would need someone they could contact and some sort of approval given and cost guidelines given as far as how much cost you want to reimburse, and then trained into basically turning the receipts after the event, whatever kind of report you want. This is pretty easy to implement. The hardest part is actually getting the word out. And I think the Facebook side and the other, I have mixed feelings about, we have a neighborhood site on Facebook. I don't know but if residents who knew about this, wanted to use that site, I think it's appropriate. I don't think it's appropriate for the government to us as we're tied into Sunset Valley City government, to use their site in a formal way. We can do it as residents. We can definitely use the Facebook site and Instagram sites when we get one, if we don't have one yet, for our own, the Art Commission site. But the sooner you get the word out, the better. There's some implementation pieces, but they're already done. There's no policy that has to be developed, etc.
Right. So it's something that the new commission could decide when they would want to launch the publicity for this.
Yes.
Yeah, which would probably be January would be my guess, but maybe February just to give them time to get going. Okay. Sounds good. And we feel pretty good about the financial component of this money, the amount. Yeah.
Well, Sasha, what I was thinking here is, we have this great connection with Home Depot. Why? Who is it? Is it CED or the city, or who do we talk to at the art? What's the art? I'm drawing a blank. Michael's. Why don't we have that same thing with Michael's? That if they could give us a discount at least or something, but all I have ever heard from them is, well, it's you have to go through corporate. It's always corporate is their excuse. Well, that's not Home Depot's excuse. They have somebody there that jumps right in for community engagement. So I'm just wondering if maybe we gave up on Michael's, maybe they do have somebody like that now. Because I mean, they start putting out their Christmas stuff, during Halloween. So what happens to all that Halloween stuff? Does it go in some warehouse somewhere, or could it maybe all this obsolete? It must go to some gigantic warehouse somewhere, or maybe even back on one of those container ships. Who knows? But why can't we go have somebody approach them about getting some materials or at least discounts from them.
Yeah, sounds like a very
Is that-
good idea.
At $1,200, we could stretch that a long ways if we could get them, to help out a bit.
Hmm.
Gary, is that you raising your hand to go do that? No.
Well, I was saying, yes, that's a good idea. And it sounds like it's yes, you guys want to continue this. The commission wants to continue.
No, I think it's a good thing. In fact, last weekend, Karen and I were at that, well, Sasha, you were there, and so was Ruth came by. But I do these hangings, they're kind of like wind chimes, and I've got just boxes full of little things that I hang from pieces of wood. And everybody who came that had kids, they were directed over to my table, and I just said, "Here, kids, pick something." And I had these bags. It was called a do-it-yourself art kit, and they put those in there, and they picked out a stick, and they went home and did their own. Or in some cases, I sat right there with them and helped them make it. So that was just little doodads and bells and themes, like for mothers or fathers or kids, toys or whatever. And these kids had a great time. In fact, Rob just left, but his kids came. So something like that even, we all have things around our homes that could hang on a piece like that. And some of those could even work in the, for the garden on the fences,
Hmm.
the garden. So there's a lot of things that we can do just out of our own collectibles.
Right, you are. Okay.
I just have a question about this, just for my frame of reference. Is this just a line item or a project for? So what Terry, what you were talking about, is there a specific class or specific courses? And then are you talking about, is it rebates? Is it like giving direct rebates, or is it purchasing the material? Like, what is this? What is the scope?
Well, it's actually, here's kind of like ideally, I'll just describe how it happened. The community garden people within that group, a young woman, wanted to teach an art class, and Miles knows more details than I do. Because she interviewed people involved with this, and we were encouraging people to do that. We had been encouraging the community garden, and so they recruited a teacher, and they actually there was an advertising occurred. Mostly kids came. I think one adult came. Miles knows how many. I've forgotten. And they had an art class. They did an art class. So the idea behind this was, when it was conceptualized, one of the possible problems was that paying fees to instructors, that it could consume the dollars pretty quickly.
Right.
So the concept was, if people get together who are our residents and want to do an art class or something else similar to that, and we would support them by paying the material costs that were reasonable and within a budget that the Art Commission is going to have to decide per event how much they will reimburse. And the art class idea, I think, has already been approved, because that was used when we justified this expense to the council, and they approved the residents doing art classes, and that's reimbursing expenses. So that part of this is for sure. If you want to expand other kinds of things, you could. So does that answer your question, Matt?
Yes and no. I mean, I don't think that council ever directly approved a rebate I don't think we ever really fleshed that out. That was talked about during COVID, right? When we thought about maybe having like a virtual class or something. But to my knowledge, it wasn't ever really fleshed out.
Well, I know it was in budget and finance, and Rudy was there
Right.
because I had to explain that.
Okay.
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 Well, you know, this is similar to the thing that we've already done as an arts commission, our summer art workshops, where
Right.
I taught leather, Karen taught jewelry, Betty Dunn did the little fairy gardens, and somebody else did clay. And so we provided the instructor, one of us, and all the materials. So and then we paid a portion to the instructors, and some of us didn't even charge. We just said we'll be there and we'll teach this. So we've kind of already done this, and they were very well attended, and the parents and the kids both got a big thrill out of it. So
Yep. It was a big success, so there's no reason it wouldn't still be a big success to do it in this format or a different format. All right.
I
So
think more work has to be done, and we're running low on time, and it's going to have to be fleshed out by the new commission to decide basically the scope. You know, is it going to be rebates for, like, if they find a cool class or instructor, it'll be rebates. Will they be paying for the instructor? Will it be a workshop? So there's just more, I guess, finessing to materialize this program.
yes, this sounds kind of like a Matt issue about what's going to happen with the money and stuff, but the commission thinks it's a good idea.
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah.
And then we can flush things out as time is right.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Okay, great. So moving right along, and let's talk about the pop-up galleries. And we need to talk about what the resources are that would be needed for that. And I'm not going to describe that. I'm going to rather ask for your input about what resources do you think would be needed if we were to proceed with the pop-up galleries approach. Yes, Terry.
Yeah, but if you all recall, there was discussion during the year about this as a way of promoting, drawing people into the business district. And so this is a follow-up, a direct thing that the commission could do to do that. Sylvia's been engaged in some of the discussions, and in regard to basically, it's almost like the same way the Art Fest is done, that someone is hired who has a stable of artists or who's a production guy. I really don't know what you're, an events manager to actually stage these events. I think the city had a resource, because I recall her mentioning one. Miles, I think, also developed resources. And I can tell you there are a lot of people in Austin that do this. This is a big art time for pop-up style events. These happen every week. I know that Miles has done a lot of work on this already in regard to doing it. It would, and we also discussed as part of this the opportunity to engage Sunset Valley residents or artists who to get involved with whoever the managers are that are going to be providing the pop-up galleries, to be on those lists, so that Sunset Valley artists aren't excluded from pop-up galleries in their own city. So that's where it is.
Mm-hmm.
Miles, you have something on that? Because I know you were excited about this.
Sure. Sasha, Terry, and Sylvia have received a document from me in which I create sort of a running list of things that have to be done. And from that, we came up with an idea of the expense. At the same time, I have been cultivating a relationship with the Creative Alliance of Austin, which has 465 members. They've put on a lot of shows, and they already understand that we want Sunset Valley artists to be part of the event if we were to do some sort of joint venture with them. But as I look at all the things that have to be done, it becomes a matter of bandwidth again, in which case Terry's notion that perhaps a third-party event manager would be the one to put it together, and that would be the only way for us to go, unless we had more people to join me in doing it. And there are lots of possibilities here, like maybe create a relationship with a local influencer, social media influencer. But I'm starting to feel that the $5,000 of funding that we sought and received it won't cover it if we have third parties doing a lot of the work that I envisioned that we would do. But I don't know what that amount of money would be. I haven't spent any time trying to find a company that will do it. Terry's right. There's someone here who does it. The people have done it already. It could even be the Creative Alliance of Austin taking it on if they could show us that they've done it. And in which case, we're giving them something. We're giving them a venue. We're giving them promotion, and maybe they're giving us the organization that an event manager would do. I don't know. I haven't gone there with them because this thing's been on hold for a long time. So I just sort of stopped. When we're ready to proceed, I'll could reactivate that connection and see about it. But at the same time, someone's going to have to look into what the alternatives are, which would be that third-party event manager.
Mm-hmm. Good information, Miles. Okay. I know there are also, in terms of stakeholders, I don't know if Sylvia is still on or not, but
I think she stepped into a meeting in person. So I know it shows her online, but I saw her go into the conference room. So I think she's not.
Okay. I seem to remember some discussion about, I don't know, insurance and other things like that. And the people who own the shopping centers being willing to make their space available, et cetera, et cetera. Matt, do you remember any of that discussion?
I really wasn't involved, but yeah, that's definitely going to need to be involved. So that you would have to have, the shopping center, who are they called? Like basically the leasing, shopping center leasing and management companies are going to have to be involved with that. And Sunset Valley's never, we have used like in front of stores, and we've used, Sasha, you recall the CED Christmas events. We've used that space over there, over in the village. Sunset Valley has never held any sort of event inside a empty space. And right now, also, there's very few vacant spaces. So it'll just be a coordinate. Yeah, I think there's like 5 or 6 vacant spaces total. That and non-include. So some of the spaces that may seem vacant, they're already planned for development. So yeah, from what I know, it'll just be a lot of coordination with the leasing and management folks for the shopping center. And yeah, Sylvia did brief me, but I can't recall exactly. But yeah, like the insurance and then as Miles spoke to, like who would manage the event itself.
Right.
So event management and coordination, would be needed.
Miles, go ahead.
There was some correspondence with Sylvia that I recall she used the words quid pro quo, suggesting that the shopping centers will want something in exchange for providing the space. But I think we actually are in a very good leverage position here. We're spending $250,000 on a branding campaign and social media, and about to throw in a lot more to develop, to make sure that their businesses are thriving. So it's not much to ask from them, but I've never dealt with them. I don't know what their temperament is about things like this. I'm glad to hear there are only a few vacant spaces, Matt. I really only need one. There's a very nice one that's right next to Fireball Cafe and the new Ulta. Really, so I have my eyes on that. It's still vacant, but who knows? Maybe someone has signed up for it. And anyway, whatever we're talking about now is probably going to be a few months in the future. So we can't peg a location if we don't even have a date. And that's really all I can add at this time.
Okay. All right. So, Matt, are you getting to write down some of the resources that would be required?
Well, I have event management and coordination, insurance. I know that was mentioned. And then I guess also, I mean, the artists themselves, right? The showcasing, there'd be coordination, right? Like that's
Yeah,
you need
yeah, that would be, the
artists.
artists themselves would be stakeholders. The the shopping center owners or leasing agents are stakeholders as well, right?
Mhm. And then
Are we-
obviously also you need, if there was an event, there's going to need to be publicity for the event.
Exactly, and that's why under resources, social media would really be the driving force. And look, we do have an Instagram and commercials Facebook page that were developed for us that are laying there inactive, and that would be in tandem with the Sunset Valley Arts Facebook page, and getting involved with an influence and all the other tricks in the bag. But that is going to increase the cost of running it, but I don't know how much.
Mhm.
But social
Yeah.
media is very important. I would certainly put that into resources. Real important to have that in there.
So you're thinking we need more money for this.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Okay. And is this still a project of interest to everybody?
Certainly for me. It was one of the things I liked that Ampersand had recommended, and it fits in neatly with the general profile of the city. It brings people to the commercial area. There are stores nearby. I mean, if I had my druthers, I mean, if it was happened to be near Fireball, I would ask the Fireball people, how do you feel about standing outside and giving out the taste of your delicious egg rolls with coupons to come in and things like that. Barnes and Nobles is just a few spaces away. They do promotions. They have couponing. I mean, if you get people, and I would make it more of a gallery event and happening. And depending what the theme of the art is, I mean, I could imagine having people dressed up in some sort of costume and make it visual and make it sort of exciting. It would have to be more than just a single day. A few contiguous days, but I have no idea how it would be. But so many people could be involved in this with benefits. And that's something that an event coordinator should bring to the table. That they say they've done this, they know how to, sort of like what Michelle's doing with Art Fest. With the person who has it all on her ledger, and she follows that and has the contacts and the experience of having done it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So something maybe to look at for the January agenda is when we want to get going on this project. Because
this might be where we could do something with Upper Cougar Creek, and that's close enough to the businesses, and there's lots of people in town that like the idea of doing something there. It would just have to be on a small scale where parking and other things like that don't get to be a hindrance to it. But we've had several of our artists at Art Fest want to do, a second Art Fest in the fall. And so maybe this could be something that we do, let's say at Cougar Creek in the fall, and we just put up a big tent close to the retail or something like that. I don't know. Because I think, like you're saying, to count on retail space, there's such a quick turnover here in Sunset Valley. Like even that, what was it, that dress barn that was there, that sat there empty for a little while, and it didn't take that long for whatever's in there now. And there's just, there's even the hopscotching, like Michael's going over to the other shopping center and stuff. So counting on empty space for any length of time, empty retail, unless it's a true pop-up that we can get the media, the social media out really quickly and get the artists that are just waiting for something to literally open up. I don't know. I think it is going to mean a third party to keep their all the options open on that one.
So maybe this is something that that some of the money from CED wants to go to as well, because it promotes the commercial district. So maybe that's a source of income for that. So maybe we need to put them down there. Yeah. Okay. So do we have as much as we need under that category, you think?
Yeah.
I think we do. I still think it's a great idea, and I'd like to see us move forward with it. So, Matt, can you put the agenda back up again for us?
Sorry, scroll up here. So we've already discussed recruitment of new members. Art in public places, that was staff's bad, I'm sorry. So we'll get that to Barbara, and we'll try to have her comments back in time, and staff and legal review for the January meeting, and then hopefully we can send that on to council. Or is it just, or did it was the, sorry, I wasn't there at the last part of the meeting when y'all.
It was going to go to be drafted up, and then we were going to get to look at what the draft was like
from legal.
Yeah, and get the final.
Okay, so by our January meeting, so I'm going to put in notes, January meeting, we'll review draft art and public places policy.
Yes, and they were going to be writing it more into a policy type format.
Right, so you kind of have, that draft is more kind of the ideas, the concepts, and then legal will turn that into you know, a policy. Okay, and then so just the only item remaining is the sponsorships for Art Fest. Council approved that. It is 4:30, and as John said, we have zoning, so I actually have some work to do. So I really need to wrap up in like the next few minutes, like 2 minutes.
Yes, we're going to do that. We're going to do that. Miles, comment?
We did talk a lot about recruitment of new members, but I didn't treat it as if it was the bullet point item. There is laying in wait, an ad that I made for you, and it was approved in August, with the door in the sky, you know, showing the art commission, and we were all set to put it on the residents' Facebook page and present it to the city for its next newsletter. When Sylvia asked in the last meeting if we're sure that it is accurate as to what we're offering new members. And since then, she hadn't seen it. So have you in that time, Sasha presented it to her so she could sign off on it if it needs to be signed off on. And if not, why don't we just run it?
I think we should just run it.
Okay.
I thought we talked about paid holidays, didn't we? Just kidding.
Paid holidays? I lost that.
Yeah, refreshments.
I see, okay. Yeah, I think we should go ahead and run it.
Okay.
And Matt will inform her of your question, and if she wants to comment, I'm sure she'll comment quickly. Okay?
Again, the only other thing related to that is that when Karen and Mayor Mark tried to have a discussion about commission rules and removal, et cetera, also in there was something I was unaware that was going to be presented, and that was just for the Arts Commission, increasing the number of honorary members from 1 to a potential multiple. Now, although I didn't know about it in advance, I think it's a good idea. And is that something that we want to have, because we're talking about bandwidth, right? If that's something we want, perhaps our new council liaison to introduce as an agenda item by itself, just a simple little thing, unattached to anything else for council to approve, so we can have other people engaged around the table without a voting right, or just gets more people involved and gets more
Yeah.
momentum.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. Let's make sure to get that one written down, Matt. Okay. Thank you, Miles, for those things. And before we say goodbye, or before we get a motion to adjourn, because time is tight, I want to make sure to thank Terry for his hard work that he has put in during these years, and say how much we're going to miss you. I am going to miss you, and I think the rest of the council will too. But we want to see your art as it is progressing and thriving, okay?
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Wish the best. A lot of exciting projects. Y'all have fun with them.
Yes, I think we've got a lot on the table, so thank you. And any other commentaries for the good of the community? And otherwise, then
Just a reminder that, yeah, the sponsorship. So council approved it, but in its form, and you guys can work now, you guys can email about this and wordsmith it, but I've updated it with the new, I slapped the logo on there and the font, but it's still kind of in a,
For council.
it's like a proposal. It needs to be wordsmith into, okay, this is the sponsorship package. And then, you guys need to decide, what do we do with that? Do we post it? Do we send it to people? So maybe you all can work on that via email over the holidays, so that maybe, I guess, in the January meeting, we can decide what the commission is going to do with that and putting it forward. Does that sound doable?
yeah, and we can do that on a Google Doc.
Yeah, I can throw this on a Google Doc and send it to you, Sasha, and then you can distribute to the commission.
Okay, that sounds good. All right, so then I would ask if there is a motion to adjourn. Terry made the motion to adjourn, and I guess we all need to say in favor.
Aye.
Aye.
All right, and so the adjournment is at 4:36. And thank you again for all your work. And Terry, we sure will miss you.
Oh, thank you.
That's true.
Miss you too.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'll see you guys around.
Bye. Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank you, Arts Commission.
Yeah.